What is going on, everybody? Web3 DJs in the house. We have a very special guest, Mr. Ben Mother Jammin. What's up, man?
What's good, brother? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And as always, if you like this content, please like, comment, and subscribe or tell a friend. But we just want to get into it, man. We really appreciate you coming on. You're one of those true OGs in the space. And actually, I was just looking through your wallet, and I was kind of just like blown away. And I know that's probably not everything that you have, but what you have on OpenSea is just insane, dude. I just kept scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. I'm like, does this even stop?
Bro, he was just calling out projects. I'm like, yo, Hofstra, chill, man. I'm trying to write something up real quick, finish my work so I can hop on the interview. And he's just like, oh, he's got a this, he's got a this, he's got a this. And then kept going. I'm like, hey, man, I get it. He's got a nice portfolio, you know?
Yeah. So first question, is there a project that you don't own?
Oh yeah, there's plenty, man. I've missed a bunch. But what's funny about that main wallet is it's so full of garbage, and that like you may be scrolling through there and see an Azuki, and it's not a real Azuki. It's some fake thing that someone just airdropped into my wallet, and I lost control of that thing late 2021. Like I barely know what's on there anymore. So what I try to do is I use my cold wallets. I throw the things into the vault that I need, and then I use that benjamin.eth as like a warm wallet where like I definitely do some of my degenning and stuff on there, but that's not where I mint a lot of the smaller tier degen stuff. That's just where I collected stuff over time that the remnants that didn't make it to the cold wallet, essentially, that I'm still willing to trade or hold on to, and it's like a garage sale walking through there. You never know what you're gonna find.
Kind of reminds me of like a Web3 mullet, right? You kind of got the business side in your cold storage, and then you got the party where everybody can airdrop or do whatever they need to with it.
Yeah, and then you got the parts of the hair that are like set on fire by somebody else. That's my hidden wallet. Like you see what I let you see on there. That there's plenty that I'm just like, oh, this is too degen that I had to hide it. Like I don't even. The only way people are gonna find out is if people go check my blockchain to find out that I minted those, fuck bubbles or whatever. All kinds of crazy shit.
Hey, so next question. How did you come up with the name Benjamin?
Oh, that's from my father. So that's since I was a baby. He used to like sing the Bob Marley song to me. We've been jamming, and so he would throw my name in there. We've been jamming. Hope you like jamming too.
I love that one. That's one of my favorite Bob Marleys. Yeah.
He's not Jamaican, but he loved the music, and so he gave me that nickname, and it stuck with me, and it's something I've been fortunate to use for a long time, and it's great for branding.
No, that's awesome. So I know you've done a lot of these interviews, and you've probably told the story a bunch, but I wanted to just get the Cliff Notes version of what were you doing before you found Web3 NFTs, and how did you stumble into this?
Sure. So I spent most of my professional life in the restaurant industry, doing everything from bussing tables all the way to managing restaurants. And I was doing that for a long time. And I ended up going to school for computer programming and information systems. But while I was there, I created a daily fantasy sports company that I was running with a friend of mine, CG. It was called Daily Roto Sharks. And through that, I wanted to learn more about just websites and development in general. So I decided to pursue that in college. I did that for 4 years while I was there. I also created one of the first 3D printing college clubs in the country. Got funded by New York State and Farmingdale State College. I was the only student in the school to have my own lab. And through that, I ended up getting recruited to work at a defense contractor, military industrial defense contractor called Curtis Wright, where we made nuclear actuators, and we sold to the nuclear navy, power plants, and submarines. And I was a program manager there, like controlling the life cycle of the products. After that, I decided to go back into kind of like the startup world and stuff, and build out some websites. That was um, late 2020, early 2021. And then I rediscovered NFTs again. So I had initially found NFTs in 2017 with CryptoKitties.
Oh
So
wow.
once I got out of working that manufacturing job and back out of the startup, once I started getting to the startup world again, I had more time to be looking online and working from home, and that's when I discovered Top Shot, and things just kind of took off from there.
That's so
So
funny. And like, I love how nonchalant you were when you were talking about all the nuclear things that you were doing and selling them to the Navy and that sort of stuff. I do want to ask, so you were in at 2017, and I've never actually, spoke to someone knowingly who discovered NFTs at that time. What were your thoughts about NFTs then, with the crypto kitties? Were you thinking they were going to be the future, or was it until this like resurgence that you kind of bought into them?
Yeah, man, it's like, when you're always looking for something new, something different, something unique, and not to say you're leaving things in the past, but you're always yearning to learn more. You
Yeah.
find yourself in these industries that are just atypical. And so, I was working around 3D printing before anyone ever even knew what it was, and that got me the job at Curtis Wright. But yeah, it was fun. It was really interesting, but it's not something I wanted to do with my life. And so just the mentality of always trying to find something that's new and innovative and different, and kind of being into technology. I was involved in Bitcoin and Ethereum and Litecoin and everything at that time. So I was looking for different things to do,
Hmm.
and invest in, and finding CryptoKitties was not something that was like life changing by any means. It was just something. Oh wow, this is pretty cool. When I was younger, I had played around with something called Neopets. If you ever heard of that,
Yes,
so it was
I
like
have. Yes, sir.
yeah. So it's kind of like I saw. I was like, oh, I remember Neopets from when I was a kid. So this is something similar to that. And I was like, oh, you could breed these cats, and you can buy and sell and trade. And to me, it didn't seem even revolutionary at the time.
Yeah.
The name NFT, non-fungible token, wasn't very popularized. It was just, oh, here's these cool cats that I could fuck around with on Ethereum, which I'm already doing. So it didn't really, it wasn't a foreign thing to me in terms of like you know using Ethereum and
Right.
just buying and selling it. And so I was like, oh, this is just like kind of a picture representation of it. And so I messed around with it for a while in like 2017 and 2018, and I ended up selling off that whole wallet. So someone was interested in buying it. And I was like, all right, I got an offer on it. That this is cool. And then I kind of forgot about it for a while. And then in 2021, when Top Shot started getting popularized, that's when I jumped back in. And since I was already familiar with what it was, Top Shot was run by Dapper Labs, which created CryptoKitties. So there was some familiarity for me already. It made it easy to jump in. And so I think just always wanting to know more and learn more kind of set me on that track that, I discovered CryptoKitties. And even though I didn't fully understand what it was, I remained familiar with it again when I was finding Top Shot. And I was like, I made the connections of, okay, this is something that has been around for a while. They've been building it. This is the second coming of, a project that essentially crashed Ethereum at one point and had to create their own blockchain called Flow. So I was like, oh, this is legitimate. This is something that I can not just mess around with and buy a couple of these kitties, but really, dump some money into it as kind of an investment that I was looking at it at the time, and it paid off, and that's really how things took off for me.
No, that's awesome, man. So I know you were big into the Draftkings and the DFS stuff because I used to follow you, and like when I got into it, I was just looking for people that knew how to do it because even back then it was kind of early, and then I didn't even realize that you changed your profile picture, I think at one point to an 8, and then you had a .eth, but I didn't realize like what happened, and you literally were my intro into it accidentally by following DraftKings stuff. And I didn't put two and two together that it was because you used to write blogs, right, for DraftKings or like DFS stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and it's something that it actually was the cause to reintroduce me to Top Shot. So if you know Jonathan Bales, he made this infamous post about NFTs and Top Shot that a lot of the DFS community ended up jumping into because of that. But yeah, I ran Daily Roto Sharks with a friend of mine, CG. We used to write content and do all kinds of stuff, and we covered the one of the Draftkings football championships. We like live blogged it. I made Blogger of the Month there a couple times, and yeah, I was really into daily fantasy sports and that whole circle, which introduced me to Top Shot. So through Bales, I started talking to some other people. One of my friends, Ryan Hodge, and was like, bro, we're making money on this Top Shot stuff. It's really cool. And I was like, oh, let me check that out. And then I started making the connections of this is Dapper Labs. This is what I used to do. It makes a lot of sense. This is sports. This is collectibles. This is Ethereum. At Flow. But I was like, this is something that I'm really interested in. And because of daily fantasy sports in general, not only was I introduced to it, but I had a better understanding of how markets work because of it.
And you just you name dropped Ryan Hodge. I know that sounds familiar. Is he with the Cryptoon Goons? Is that correct? Or
I'm not sure. I haven't spoken with him in a while, but Hodge was working with Fantasy Labs, which is where Bales and Peter Jennings, CSU ran Fantasy Labs. They now run Lucky Trader, which got into
oh, nice.
NFTs. So they started building that around the time Zed Run was getting real popular. And so there was a whole circle of people involved that kind of made the jump from DFS to Top Shot to Zed Run.
Now, are those guys still around?
I'm not sure. I know a lot of the people who jumped in and got punks and apes are like still familiar. I don't know how active they are, and especially like people who were involved in punks, which some a section of the DFS players got punks, and at that time I wasn't willing to spend tens of thousands of dollars on a single NFT like that, like some of these other guys were like DFS players. There's a lot of degen in that, and so the people who came over just ready to deploy capital, like they just aped into like punks and stuff, and there's just not a lot of updates or movement with the punk community. And if you didn't start, I guess, degenning into other collections and that you have to be a little more active, then you could still be around and still have your assets, just not really be part of the engaged community.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. And to be honest with you, to some degree, there is strategy to stepping away. I mean, me personally, if I would have got a CryptoPunk at whatever, there's no way I would have been able to hold on to it to its valuation now, right? So there is a strategy to stepping away and just kind of letting things run their course. And I wanted to ask you because you said you weren't ready at that time to spend tens of thousands of dollars on an NFT, but earlier Hofstra mentioned now your wallet is full of awesome, outstanding projects. What characteristics do you look for when you're attempting to buy into a project?
Well, first of all, one of the things that really helped was Top Shot doing very well, and so I got in at a time where I put not a substantial amount of money, just a few $1,000s, and like 10x'd it pretty quickly.
Nice.
And so I took that money, put that into mostly like Zed Run, which is the digital horse racing, which was a heavy utility based project and a game and digital horse racing and breeding. So it was kind of a step up from what I was doing with Top Shot and reminded me of CryptoKitties and the breeding and the gamification of it. So early on, I was mostly utility based and company based, like Dapper Labs, Very Human Studios, things like that. So I think it was early on. I had a pretty set criteria that was looking at art, looking at the team around it, the community around it, and I made money from those early projects that I was able to redeploy back in. So once I did, then it was really a matter of just, you know, jumping into as much stuff as I could that I was interested in, that even if they died out, like there's plenty of dead projects that I've bought into, but
Yeah.
I've always tried to find something that was cool, doing different things, or just part of the momentum meta at the time. You know, like there's stuff that you buy in early on that went to zero, and there's stuff you buy in that went to, you know, dozen ETH. And it's hard to project, you know, what's really going to catch fire. But yeah, I have thousands of NFTs, and that's just the ones that I've bought. There's plenty that people have dropped to me that I don't even know what's in the wallet. And it could be something that has value. It could be something that's malicious. And it could just be something that's just dead. And they're trying to get me to look at like a flyer or something, which is pretty funny. Like they'll make a flyer, they'll mint it as an NFT and drop it in my wallet. So if I'm watching, I'll see like, sign up for this allow list at this time. It's like, it's creative, but it's annoying as hell.
So on the Zed Run stuff, I was just looking at your wallet here. It's too hard. Like you here, pull this up real quick, because you could just literally just keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling. Like I'm not even halfway through this yet. When he says thousands, like he's not joking. There's so many NFTs in here. But on the Zed Run stuff, do you still own, like, did you have those Genesis horses like the Nakamoto's, or you know the Series 1 or 1 through 5, I think it was?
Yeah, so I have Genesis, and they run Z1 to Z10. I don't have any of the Z1s or Nakamoto's. I mostly have around Z7s to Z10s. And so I got some rare ones in there. I've sold a bunch off. I traded a few for apes, and the rest
trade.
of them I just kind of held on to.
You swapped. Oh my God, I bet those people are so pissed swapping a Series 1 for an ape. I mean,
you know, hindsight's 2020, right? And at the time, so the story of how like I got into apes is I minted one the first night, and I got number 721. So I was under 1,000. The mint had been alive for almost a week at that point. And you know, I wasn't liquid at the time. I had a bunch of horses that I had been buying into. This is around the time like Zed Run was doing their drops, and you know, everyone was trying to save up liquidity to buy into those and ape in. And I had figured out ways to do well in those drops by like sorting certain things and filtering certain things that just testing things out, and just found some edges. So I was able to get some nice bags of Zed Run horses out of those drops. And so I was like, all right, you know, I'll wake up the next day and I'll sell some horses and I'll buy some more apes. And I woke up the next day, not even like 10 hours later, like 5 hours later. Like I didn't even sleep that long that night, and they were all sold out. And so I was like, oh, fuck. Like I wanted to buy more of these. Like I got to figure out a way before they, you know, go too crazy, because they had already pretty much doubled overnight. And at that time, you know, ETH was I think around 3,000 or something like that. So, you know, it wasn't cheap, but you know, relatively now, obviously it was super affordable. So I had some horses that were decent horses at the time. You know, like it's not like these guys were not getting a good deal. If anything, they were getting a better deal than I was. And so I had a bunch of horses, and I said, all right, this is a good deal for me. You know, I can get these apes. I may be losing some short-term value, but, you know, at least I don't have to worry about selling these and trying to sell and then buy back in and maybe missing. So I was able to trade 3 Zed Run horses for 2 apes. And I still have one of those apes at this time. But yeah, you know, at that time, the horses were more popular. They were more well known, and they were just hands down worth more. They were worth more money. So I thought that we both got a good trade out of it. And, you know, long term, the fact that I held on and was able to gain that value is, you know, hindsight's 2020. But I also could have sold that ape for a 2x. I could have just sold it for 0.3 or 0.4 and called it a day, made my money, made a good trade, made money. But the fact that I held on is what really would I think cause someone to have a little regret for giving away their ape for a horse. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they would have held on to the ape to garner that value either.
So what was the thought behind that trade? Because I mean, you had to have seen something in the apes, and then to keep it this long, what was it about that attracted you, that made you want to hold and think that was a good trade?
Well, they were doing something that was different. So I'm always looking for different, new, unique things, people that are innovating. And looking back on it, like, people who are in the game now who have seen a lot of things happen, like, don't really understand that at that time, even though it was a year ago, them doing a flat pricing model, for instance, was pretty innovative. Like, it just wasn't really being done. Most of it was, the FOMO ramps. It is like what they called Dutch auctions, but
Right.
weren't really that. And so they were, the way that it works is you do like the first 100 sell for 0.02, the next 100 sell for 0.04, the next 100 sell for 0.06. And so they just did 0.08 across the board for all 10,000. They also created even though it was silly, especially at the time, they created this little bathroom that you can, be a members only community experience that you can work on it together. And they had these roadmaps of other things that were going to happen. And, they have these mutants, but no one had any idea what it was going to be. So it was like speculation. And the communities that I had grown to be a part of at the time, early alpha groups, Zed run chats, top shot circles, a lot of people were jumping in, and everybody was super excited about it. Everyone was, making connections, starting to talk on spaces and clubhouses about it. And so the combination of the apes doing some new things, the story was great. The bored apes, like, everyone was going to be so rich, they'd just be bored hanging out together. They gave everybody 100% of IP, which at the time wasn't the case with CryptoPunks. You only had up to like 100K that you were able to make from it, and then you would have to ask permission. So they just did a few new different things at a time when the market was starting to come down and people needed something. And so it was like the revitalization of this market, even though it was still so brand new to a lot of people. It was just the combination of, the community, the innovation, the hype, the speculation, the drops in value that they did end up getting us, and also the connections, just being able to meet other apes who are doing cool things, or people come up to you and say, hey, I would like to work with you because you have an ape. I think the added value of that is something that if you aren't in those kind of circles, you just kind of don't really understand looking in from the outside.
Yeah, definitely. And that's really great to hear, because these things that we, for lack of a better phrase, take advantage of now, such as flat pricing model, orienting a project around your community, owning the IP to your NFT. I mean, these are like the thresholds, the kind of the bare minimum for entry for a project now. And, it's really interesting to hear how that wasn't the case. And I mean, we all know this, but the Bored Ape Yacht Club continues to just trailblaze and pave the way for NFTs, and that's a prime example of that. I wanted to actually ask you. You talked about your degree in computer science and information systems, or going to school for that, and then you also talked about getting involved in Top Shot and DFS. So it seems to me that you're like numbers oriented, right? Are you a big numbers guy? Is that correct to assume? So how are you leveraging that in the NFT space? Are you doing any sort of technical analysis when you look at projects or anything like that?
Yeah, so I've always been a technology, numbers, data guy. I'm not a developer, but
Sure.
I know how to make my way around websites and development and design and stuff like that. And I didn't use it once I graduated, which is probably one of the things that I really wish I focused on. Like, even though I got a job that didn't have to do with development, I wish I just practiced more on the side, just to kind of have an understanding and keep up with it. Because now
Sure.
things change so much. What I learned 4 years ago especially like with the advancement of blockchain solidity development and stuff like that. I wish I would have just kept up with it. But yeah, very heavy data guy. That's what I used to use with daily fantasy sports. I would create these cheat sheets of data. I would take, data from all over the internet for baseball, basketball, football. I would aggregate them, combine them together in these Excel sheets, create projections and ranking systems and things like that. And I was putting them out for free on Twitter with my partner CG, and we had some other guys working with us, and we were just putting them out for free just because it was something that we liked doing, and people started winning money from it and doing well, and basically asking us to start charging for it, so that it was gated. So we built a company around that, and so we lucked out with that, and that was all around data, statistics, numbers, projections, and rankings and stuff like that. And when I got into NFTs, there really wasn't much of that around. So I like to do things with Top Shot where I would figure out different trends, things that were happening, who was buying what before like a lot of the websites were coming out. And so that's kind of where I got a little bit of popularity with Top Shot, similar to how I did with DFS. And now, fortunately, there's smarter people than I who have built some awesome tools that I continue to use on a daily basis to analyze projects, to see if there's things that I want to jump in or jump out, or flip or hold, and all this different kind of stuff. And there's a lot that you can learn through the numbers, but you still need to have intuition, and you need to have an understanding of the market, the community, the waves that things work, and have a risk tolerance to be able to make decisions off of that knowledge as well, and not just fade things like goblins because you're too good for it.
Yeah, absolutely. And here's kind of like a prime example of that. If you look at two separate trends, right? One is the amount of ice cream consumed in a summer. And then if you also look at the amount of drowning deaths, they have a positive correlation. When the amount of ice cream consumed goes up, so does the amount of drowning. So if you just look at the numbers, you would say, well, eating ice cream causes you to drown. But no, that's not the case. You have to have that reality constraint and zoom out a little bit and say, oh, well, summer was a little bit longer. The temperature was hotter during these months. So therefore, more people were consuming ice cream and more people needed to swim. So naturally, these two things are not related at all. And it just goes back to, like, I think the cliche around it is correlation does not mean causation. And it's just another example of what you're talking about. If you just look at the numbers, you're missing a piece.
So you may be too smart for NFTs. you'd probably overthink a little too much.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, you just gotta just follow what he said and then just buy it and you'll do better.
Sometimes you just gotta ape and then look later. But no, you raise excellent points. It's not just about the data. Those can lead you to understanding things a little bit better. But if you're only looking based on data, you'll get burned. So like what I tell people is, when you're looking at projects that are trending, they're trending because people are already buying into them. And there's probably some kind of reason. So that's some, it's not something you can use to project. So it's more of like a descriptive metric. Like if you're looking at volume, you're looking at what's already been bought or sold. And it's kind of like looking at a star in the sky. Like you're not seeing it as its presence form. You're seeing at what happened previously, and you're just getting the information. So if you're looking at volume flowing and saying, I got to jump in just because of that, why is volume flying? Did they make an announcement? Did some alpha group call it out? Is it like, what's the reasoning behind it? So it can be an indicator to show you something happened or people are starting to discover it, but it doesn't necessarily provide future success by looking at past success.
Right. And that's why everyone says it's speculation. I mean, you've got a year and a half in a market. How much data do you really have? Like the market hasn't even become a thing yet. I mean, you look at the stock market, you got 100 years, right? You can kind of put some stuff together. But in this, it's kind of like speculation on what news comes out that day and whatever it is. But I did have a question for you. So on an average day, how much time are you spending analyzing projects or just putting into NFT related stuff?
NFT related stuff, 100% of my time that isn't taking off, right? Like anything that I'm doing work wise or hobby wise, even is pretty much centered around NFTs. But I used to spend a lot more time last year analyzing projects and spending time specifically on that. Then I got into more build mode towards the end of 2021. So I stopped trading as often then. Earlier this year, in around January, February, I was trading pretty heavily, and then for a couple months leading into the summer, I took time off because I was just getting super burnt out. So now is around the time that I'm actually starting to get back into it, starting to do more media appearances and stuff like this, starting to get more back into content and researching and analyze things. Just because last year, around this time is when things really started to take off. That's when Bored Ape started kicking into gear, derivative season came, and then that's when, people started to get a little bit more bullish again as things got better. And, the macro is a little bit different this year, but I think I'm in a good headspace now to start, jumping back in and not in any significant way where I'm, aping in everything, but I'm still being cautious. I'm watching what people are doing, buying a little bit of degen stuff to flip here and there, but also, just kind of watching what projects are doing and seeing who's able to stand through the bear market. And, if people are able to come out on the other side, then that'll give me more confidence to want to either re-enter the ecosystem, enter the ecosystem, or, buy more of what I already own.
Yeah,
Right.
so why don't you talk to us a little bit about that right now? Is you spend so much time in the space, you've been around a lot longer than the average consumer, if you will, or investor, however we want to phrase that. What are you seeing in the market right now? Is there anything that you're watching, anything that you're waiting for? What are your thoughts on that?
I'm really mostly watching crypto in general and to see what happens there because um people's sentiment changes with the price. And when
Sure.
you're at a time when people are losing money in value in ETH and USDC and things are dropping, people are just scared to buy for the most part, and you lose liquidity in the markets. And also when ETH is dumping, people are trying to sell and take profits while they can before it goes further. So gas prices start to rise, and then it becomes harder to buy and sell NFTs. And so what you really want is periods of chop, and that's kind of what we're getting right now. But we are seeing drastic rises and falls in short periods of time, which does make people a little concerning. So for me, like if we can continue chopping in this range, above the 1700 ETH support and find some stability there, and even some upside, if we're able to break some of the resistance around like 2100 or so, if we're able to get above that, but not in a way that clogs the market where everyone's trying to buy and sell ETH, because it just makes gas prices harder when there's a lot of congestion. So you want periods of either chop or slow growth. And when you have both of those, like we saw last season, then it just puts in an environment for everyone to kind of spend some more liquidity into this. And so I have liquidity on the side. I have capital that, I'm ready to deploy, but I'm a little bit more fearful right now. And so, yeah, I can buy into that fear, like I do in some ways, but I don't want to catch falling knives. So
Right.
I'd rather wait to see if, ETH stabilizes or rises, because if it drops in any significant way, then people are going to be a little too scared and too fearful. So I'm just paying attention to that. I think we're going to be able to have a good understanding by NFT NYC, the third week of June. And, we'll be able to see what the real sentiment in the community is. But to answer the second question, like what am I looking at? I'm looking at mostly projects that have been around and that have established themselves and
Yeah.
that are, holding a stable floor, that has a community that hasn't been jaded, and that does have things not necessarily planned out in a roadmap, because not every project operates the same way, but just things to look forward to. So if you know that a project doesn't have a roadmap, but they are continuing to build and do things and surprise you, then that's something, on its own. But I'm looking for, if I'm going to make any significant investments, it's going to be in those type of projects. And then I'm also watching new mints, like, free mints as they come up that I can, ape into, get like 10 of these things that are just kind of degen stuff on like a secondary wallet, just for security wise. Like if you're going to buy into any of these degen, spin up projects that are not necessarily, the healthiest thing for the market, but they are pretty fun to do, with certain ones, like, buying meme projects and things like that, or just stuff that your alpha community is high on or whatever it is. But you want to do that from like burner wallets or hot wallets. Like you want to spin up new wallets just in case, like, you sign any malicious transactions, they can't drain your wallet. So I'm mostly looking at things that have been around for a while. So that's where I would be looking to deploy my capital once things start to rebound a little bit, or at least stay stagnant. To just show that, all right, the floor is not going to bottom out from this pot if I buy in, or they have something that I could look forward to in the next couple months. I'm also looking into like these free cheap mint degen projects that I can flip for 5x, 10x pretty reasonably, that are not big liquidity drains on the ecosystem, but also allow me to have some fun, ape in, degen a little bit. And then I'm also looking for projects that are going to be coming out, that have been building, that are maybe a little fearful to drop during this time, maybe pushing things back, that have been building for a while, because those types of projects may have a bunch of things lined up that they were planning to do and drop that they're going to push back, and you may get a bunch of that all at once. So I think we're going to see NFT NYC around that time. There's going to be a lot of projects, saying, hey, like we held off, we delayed because of the bear market, and this is when we're dropping, this is what we're doing, and we want to, tell you about it. And so that's like the third rung of things that I'm most excited about, because you never know what kind of project will just pop up out of nowhere and become like, a short-term blue chip that you can make some serious money on. Like, when something like an Azuki pops up, or like a Clone X artifact, or a Goblin, just something like that, like, covers the zeitgeist and takes the NFT world by storm. So it's kind of three things: the stuff that's been around for a while, the silly degen free things that pop up, daily, that you can find on like Icy Tools and things like that. And then the projects that have been building for a while that delayed their launches either to around this time now, or are planning to launch soon, that have been building for a while.
Right. That's really good information, especially if anybody's new watching this. I think you've got a pretty comprehensive understanding of this market. But as far when you're sitting down, what is your process? Because in DFS, you kind of establish a process and you play things different. If it's cash or if it's a tournament, and I'm guessing it's probably the same here. But one, who do you look up to and respect and listen to when it comes to getting your information or news? And two, when you sit down and you break down a project, what tools are you using, or what is your process to determine what you're going to buy?
So I'll start with the like, what's the process question. So the thing is, you never know what's going to happen in this industry. Like with DFS, you understand, all right, there's a slate of games coming up at 7 p.m. For basketball, I need to be ready and have all my information done by 5, so I could work around my lineups, and like you can establish a process. Sometimes there's just a mint that pops off at 4 a.m. in the middle of the night, and I'm just happen to be in a Discord and everyone's talking about it. I'm like, all right, I'm in, let's do it.
Yeah.
So process wise, like you can only do so much at times. Like you never know, like if there's an announcement that comes out that you weren't expecting. Bored Ape's, famous for that, or infamous for that. They're just like, fuck it, mutant Saturday. Like, shit, all right, I got to cancel all my plans Saturday. I got to save up liquidity. I got to make sure have multiple wallets and all this different shit. So like process wise, it's really difficult to say. But if you're starting out, and let's just use I just created a test wallet, a burner wallet to do these degen mints, right? I put like 0.15 in there. So let's just say you're starting a fresh wallet and you want to develop a process that doesn't focus around just scrolling Twitter all night or focusing on Discord. Maybe you don't know, where to go or who to look at or where to get information. So what you'll want to do is you want to look at some websites like IC tools. So IC.tools. This is something a lot of people use. So you'll be able to find what projects are trending, what people are buying, and what people are minting. And again, like we said before, just because you see something is getting volume doesn't necessarily mean you should go and buy into it, but it'll help show you what other people are buying. And then what you can do is go look at their Twitter, go look at their Discord. Did they make an announcement? Why is this happening? Maybe ask some people, or post on your Twitter. Hey, I see these projects running. Like, are there any, is there anyone out there who's buying into this? You could show me, or you could tell me why you're buying, things like that. Just get yourself familiarized with why things happen. So you could look at different time frames there. You're going to see a lot of stupid shit on there all the time. A lot of goblin derivatives, a lot of stuff like that. But this is a good start to monitoring, like, what are people buying in the short term? Like, where's the volume going? So that's something that you can do and look at. And a lot of traders use this. You can get premium versions of these tools that I'll be naming for you, but you can look at different features. The Discover tab right there shows you what people are minting, and there's a lot of cool and interesting things. And I'm not going to try to sell you on anything. It's just like there's some things that you could do. So if you look there, you'll see like the pending and the cost is locked, so you can't see certain information, stuff like that. Another tool.
These are all goblin. It's all derivative goblin projects right now.
That's what it is. That's what the meta is right now. And so NFTs go through metas. They go through different like paradigm shifts of what people see as valuable. And so for instance, when Cool Cats came out, there was a cool cat or like a cute meta that popped off after that. So people love buying into the cute stuff because, well, I can't buy a cool cat at 2 ETH, so I'm going to buy this random cool cute derivative at 0.05. And then once one of those pop off, you see a bunch of other ones pop off. When Doodles came out, everyone started doing Doodles colors, Doodles palettes. Every derivative that came out had, the Doodle color palette. When land started getting popularized, people were buying into NFT worlds, and then that took off, and people buy the World Wide Web land and all this stuff. So there's these metas that pop out that tend to stick on theme. So it's like a theme essentially. Like a meta would be like, there's macro environments, and then the meta would be what's occurring inside that macro environment. So like the meta right now is like the goblin derivative free mint meta. Like people right now are just spinning up a bunch of free mint websites that probably took a day or two to make the art and the contracts, and they put it up for free or for like 0.00069 or something like that.
Yeah.
People ape into it. These devs make, quick money, then they move on to the next project. So it's pretty extractive. But if you don't have any money or you're looking to get started, like there are some free mints that pop up that could do well for you. Like the Goblins were a free mint and they got as high as almost 10 ETH yesterday. NFT Worlds was a free mint. They got over 15 ETH. So there's opportunities for people to get, and just understand that if you're buying something that's free, most likely it's going to be complete garbage. But there will be teams that just, maybe they were planning to launch and they just said, listen, like, we just want to get it out there. So here, buy into our stuff and we'll make money on secondary. And that also can show confidence in a project that this team is willing to work on secondary royalties. So yeah, there's a lot to think about with all this stuff, but let me just kind of circle back to the process part of it. So if you're looking at these trending websites to see what's going on, You could do that, but then you could also look at something like a WGMI.io. So this is where I look at, what's in my wallet. It shows me the valuations of things. It shows me the floor prices, the listings, everything going on. But I could also sell from there. So I like to look at what projects are getting a lot of sales, what's getting volume. And then from there, it also shows me, how much each of my traits are worth for the NFTs that I have that have traits. And they could show me things like, if I have this crown trait that is zero point 0.1 and the next one available is 0.5, it'll show me there's a gap. So if I buy this here, if I sell this here, then the next one up is 0.4 higher. So there's like a lot of tools in there that I'll check daily to show me what's going on in my portfolio. So this right here that you're looking at is like the market screen. It shows you all this different stuff, the floor, the 30-day floor of projects, 1-day floor, the volume, owners, all that kind of stuff. And then you could look on the right, there's links to everything. So you could see what's going on in the market. But if you have the premium site, and again, I'm not going to sell you on anything, but there's a lot of really cool tools out there that give you the ability to do great things. And so, you find what works best for you, but this is, in essence, a wallet analyzer, and it shows you, your portfolio, what things are worth, what's trending, how to, where you should be selling stuff. So it's one of the things that I like to look at every day. And I got, a dozen of these things that I look at. So it's really about like what works best for you. But process wise, it's good to look at what's trending, and then it's also good to find out why. That's the biggest thing. Like, learn why the stuff's trending. So that's my biggest advice. Like, don't just go ape into things. Find out why it's trending. And if oh, well, this is trending literally because it's free and has the word goblin in it. Okay, I know what I'm getting into. I'm going to try and flip this, and I don't care if there's what the community is about or what their roadmap says. Like, I just know that this is going to be something that's based on this meta. I got to get in and get out. But, process wise is going to be different for everybody.
Yeah, I love that you continue to hit on the why, right? We've seen that thinking has done well for businesses time and time again. Like, a great example of that is Apple, right? They always hit on the why in their marketing. And like, let's take another phone company, Samsung or something like that. They say, hey, come buy our Samsung Galaxy. We've got the best camera, XYZ features, so on and so forth. Apple says, you need to make a phone call? Check this out. And it's all about the why. Why are you using it? And so, yeah, it's really great to hear that you hit on that again.
So I asked it, and I know kind of long-winded, but like, who do you look up in the space?
All right.
Who do you look up to in the space as like your top 2 or 3 traders or people that are doing this full time?
All right, let's see. So this answer has definitely changed over
time. It's
a
little political too, right?
What's that?
You got to be. It's a little political. You got to be careful, not to leave anybody out, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I'll just say, all right. So collector wise, there's 3 that I look at that are like top tier. In my opinion, and there's plenty out there who I could put on this list, but I would say Jimmy.eth, or he's one of my favorites. He's since the CryptoKitties days, he's been someone that I've looked up to for a long time. Met him in person, awesome guy. It was I'll leave his name on this list because of how much respect I have for him, but I don't see him as active anymore, or at least I haven't been following as much. But Pranksy was one that I looked to for a long time on the things that he buys into and what he trades, and just kind of following his wallet. And then Dingling is top tier in terms of just diamond handing, like that. Like, he's not a trader, he's a collector. This guy just buys and buys and buys, and just when he buys into something, it's a pretty bullish indicator. He gets a lot of stuff, but he's really good at identifying what could be big in the future and just buying a shit ton of it.
Yeah.
And then there's so those are like the high volume whales that I definitely like to pay attention to. And then uh, two others, three others that I'll name for like high volume traders. So that those guys are more like buy, hold, and stagger sell. One is Mooncat. So Mooncat is a legend. He is just really good at identifying kind of like those organic projects that are focused on like community and trading and stuff like that. I really love his takes and what he does. Sneaky Ninja Pants is hysterical. He buys 100 of things and just sells them all right away. You could call it paper hands, but it's just like super high volume trading. And then Franklin, my boy Franklin is Bored Ape.
He's like the number one Bored Ape holder, right? Franklin's like he's like the number one Bored Ape holder, right?
He might be number 2.
Like,
yeah, he's way up there, way up. No, he's actually further down the list than that. But yeah, he's around like the 50s or something like that. The top holders have like 100 or so. So he's definitely up there. But yeah, he's a high volume trader. And I've learned a lot from all these people. So though I would say like the top 3, and I'm probably forgetting people, but those top 3 that are the high, like the big volume kind of whales, and then the other 3 are high volume traders.
Yeah, I listened to space with Franklin, and his process didn't seem that crazy. Like it almost seemed like common sense to him,
Franklin's a fucking character, man. I love him. He literally just looks at Twitter and just he just watches people change their profile pictures. Like, okay, I'll buy that.
I'm gonna buy that. Right. Yeah. I was just like, what? I'm doing this all wrong, man.
Hey, some people just have it like that, And I did want to say this. Obviously, if we put the 3 of us to the side, I'm gonna call these out again: Jimmy.eth, Pranksy, and Dingaling. Name a better trio. I don't think you're going to be able to, man. Those are some high caliber names right there.
No, when are they going to start creating investment funds where these guys get together and then like people give them money and then just like these like Wall Street badass, traders, but they've got it. I mean,
that's what DAOs are.
Yeah. Absolutely. No, that's crazy. So when you're talking about free mints, like where are you looking? I know you can get information on Twitter, but are there newsletters or stuff that's like up and coming that you're looking at? Okay, like next week there's X, Y, and Z, and you're going to mark your calendar? Or are you just kind of like following other people and hearing about it and then getting ready?
Well, for the free mint, I guess meta, it just started becoming a little popular with goblins. Like there's been stuff that have come out here and there, but like right now it's basically just like goblin garbage. What
about like mints in general though? Like just upcoming mints?
Upcoming mints, usually I find out through like alpha groups that I'm in, like, group DMs and stuff like that. I used to look at websites for that, but it became such a shit show of projects. Like, you're looking at so many projects that come out every day, and it's just rare that like if you look on one of those rarity sites or upcoming NFT calendars that you're not going to find a lot of quality anymore.
Right.
There's some, sure. I'm not going to discount that, but I would say like the most I see is, Twitter, Discord groups, group chats, stuff like that. The free mints, like what's happening right now specifically, people are watching Icy Tools. They're looking at the 0 cost mints, whatever's currently minting. They'll just go look at the link to the website, jump on there and try to be in the first 1,000 or whatever to mint something. But yeah, I would say that the biggest thing I always tell people to focus on is alpha groups, and not necessarily like join a paid alpha group just so they can tell you what to invest in, but being around groups of people also interested in NFTs that will, bounce ideas off of each other. They'll tell you what mints are going on, talk shit to each other if you buy something that's stupid. Like, just enjoy it. Like if you're out here solo just doing your own thing and not making friends and not joining communities, it's just not as fun, and you're not going to get the same experience as if you're in the muck. Like that's one of the things people respect about Gary Vee so much, is like he's literally in discords with people fucking around, like, you know, what should I buy, like what's this, like he doesn't do it as much anymore because he got a bad rep for like promoting projects, and it's just something that like he stopped doing. But the fact that he's in there in Discord saying hi, like stuff like that, like you got to be involved. And when I found myself taking time off and not being involved, I felt like it was less fun. So if you don't mind, I'll give a shout out to the group that I'm in that I spend the most time with. That I would recommend everybody checking out, the Nifty Portal.
Gosh,
So
dang it.
What I was just telling him this morning, I'm like, why aren't you in it? I just bought my second one, but I mean, Nifty Portal, like if you're not in that, you're just, I don't know. You're not really. I think Pio said it the best when he was on our show. He's like, there's a difference, right? You have your average fans, and then you've got your hardcore fans. And he's like, hardcore NFT people that are in this are in our group, and which that's pretty freaking accurate. But you're also doing content, right, for him? Like you're writing content?
Yeah, well, I haven't been writing anything recently, but I do video content with them. You know, I do the daily shows with them in the morning alpha show at 9 a.m. Eastern. But they do have an NFT that they sell. I think the floor is like 0.2 right now. But it gives you access to the chats and stuff like that. It's just it's a group of smart people. It's a group of all right, let me put it. It's a group of left curve and right curve people. So I'm not going to assign intelligence values to anything.
Makes a circle, right?
Yeah. It's a bunch of investors and degen traders.
Yeah, and I got to be clear, man. The only reason I was upset is because I know I need to get in. It's been on my radar, something that I need to do. I have total transparency. I'm wearing a Hawaiian shirt today. I'm getting married on Saturday. Nice. So, cash is just, it has other priorities at the moment, right? But yeah, it is definitely something I want to get in. I've been, it's on my radar. I got to figure it out at some point. No question about it.
For sure, man. And let me just, and congratulations, by the way, on the wedding.
Thank you. Yes, sir. Absolutely.
But yeah, so it's also important to understand that you don't need to pay to be in a group with like-minded people. So this, alpha groups and stuff like that, they're not mandatory, they're not necessary. But if you're wanting to stay on the cutting edge, or like what's new, what's going on, what's the news, what's the info, can I pop into this chat and just say like, hey guys, like I just got out of work, or I was mowing the lawn, like what's going on today? And you get 20 people say, hey, this is what's going on, this is what's happening. Like that's the value to me. It's not necessarily someone telling me what like dumbass derivative they're minting that day, but more like, keeping up with the news, making friends, see what's going on. But you could do that in Twitter group chats. You could do that in, DMs and text messages. You could start your own Discords. It's not about being in a paid group, but it's about finding a community that you vibe with. Like there's plenty of paid groups that I wouldn't want to be in just because, maybe it's too shilly or it's like less organic, or the vibe is different. But the Nifty Portal vibe, I mean, I met Nick and Pio in person multiple times before like I really joined into anything. There's really cool guys. I like their vibe. They're very consistent. They run a daily show. They run multiple YouTube shows and stuff like that. So I was just like joining the shows and talking with them a bunch, and then it came up. I said, hey guys, listen, like I want to start getting back into content. Like I know you guys do content. Like I would love to share my content on your channels with the audience. Like I love the community. And they're just like, well, why don't you do it with us instead of just like, sharing within the community? Why don't you just like do videos with us, like record with us? And I said, all right, that's great. Like I'll do that, instead of me just doing my own thing and kind of like being sponsored by them or posting in their channels or whatever it is. Like I'm working with them. So doing content I love to do, and talk shit just like this and talk about NFTs and stuff. And that's the community that I vibe with. A lot of NFT projects themselves could be that for you too, right? Like you could buy into an NFT and just love the community, love the vibe. They might have their own alpha chat or whatever it is. And then that's where you have fun. That's where you stay. That's where you meet people. So it doesn't have to be a paid group specifically for that. or even paid at all, but just find something you vibe with people that you like to hang out with.
Hell yeah. Man, we really appreciate you. We're coming up on an hour. We really appreciate you coming on our show and dropping that alpha and the knowledge. And anybody that's new, I mean, really listen to that, because Ben has been extremely successful in this.
I got a full page, of notes I've been taking. So absolutely.
Yeah, but he knows what he's talking about. Like, you can listen to him and really get good information that'll help you become a better trader or just understand the NFT market. Where can they find you? So you're on Twitter at xbenjamin x.
Pull it up here.
Yeah, so xbenjaminx is pretty much what I use everywhere. So if you search that on any platforms, you could pretty much find me. And I'll keep links up there and stuff like that. xbenjaminx. But I'm mostly on Twitter. I have Instagram and stuff like that, but I just really do most of my stuff on Twitter and yeah, it's
and in the morning you catch him. He'll be on Nifty Portal. Like, if you're not on that, I mean, it's too funny. It's just awesome. You just gotta get on the Twitter space every morning. So you're usually on there, and then after it's like you'll be on the YouTube, right? Something like this, just dropping, alpha on new projects or fucking around or whatever it is.
Yeah, moving around. I start the morning off usually going on that show, and then afterwards, like, I have a bunch of tasks usually that I'll have planned to do after that, and coffee and everything, and then jumping into the markets and seeing what's going on, buy and sell a little bit, and then sometimes I take an early day, sometimes I stay out late, but yeah, man, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me, guys, and hope the show does well.
But we are not going to let you off the hook. You talked about your love for DFS. You even referenced basketball specifically earlier. You know what's going down tonight, the first game of the finals. Give us the official Benjamin pick. Who we going with? Are we going with the Celtics or Golden State?
Well, let me be completely candid in that I don't think I've watched a professional sports game in 2 to 3 years.
Even better.
So didn't know who was playing tonight. Didn't know the finals were going on. So my DFS days are long behind.
Okay, still give us a pick. You see, hey, they do this at the zoo with like a gorilla or something, or a hedgehog, and like which balloon is it going to pop? So let's just have our version of that.
What are you trying to call me here?
Hey.
I am an ape.
Exactly. There it is. Yes, sir.
So it's Celtics or Warriors?
Yes, sir.
And Durant's not on the Warriors anymore.
No, sir.
Celtic. All right. I'll say I can't go Boston. I'll just go Warriors because I just can't go Boston. So
all right.
I like
out there
some of the players on Boston, but I can't ever root for Celtics or Red Sox.
Bro, you got Steph Curry's an ape. That should have been enough right there, right?
Fair enough.
Yeah, I like Curry. I just Warriors are such like a bandwagon team that like even saying I'm rooting for them like makes me feel like a bandwagoner. But no, right. I would say like if I had to predict without knowing anything, I would go with Warriors.
Nice, man.
That's awesome, man. And I look forward to seeing you in NFT NYC this year. Last year at the Gutter Cat party, this guy's rolling around with Ja Rule. That was epic, man. I think they're having another one, but if you can get out to NFT NYC, maybe you'll bump into Benjamin and ask him a question about NFTs, man. But really appreciate it. Thank you for your time. Thank you for coming on.
Yeah, absolutely. And so that being said, remember everybody, if you enjoyed this content, the number one thing that you can do is tell a friend about it. Otherwise, we're going to have all the links to Benjamin's socials, everything that he's got going in the video description. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, we've got Benjamin. I'm Sticky Finger Jones and our co-host Hofstra. Peace.
Thanks, guys.